Hello people, Zach here again today, and today's video is going to be an economics video. I'm probably going to call this video How You're Being Robbed. This is not scripted in any way, but I do have a lot of information and sources to back up the things I'm about to present you, and some of it is formatted in a way that's easier to understand. So the boomers want to gaslight the Gen Z and millennials all the time, saying how they're lazy, how they don't want to do such and such. They spend all their money on avocado toast and all this different stuff. But I feel like the most objective way in order to try to deal with this subject would be to actually figure out what the real rate of inflation is. And the thing is that you can't trust the numbers that are coming from the government, because the government lies, for one, and they manipulate. Like, normally the gauge for inflation would be something like the consumer price index, which is based on the cost of what they call the market basket of goods. And a market basket of goods is supposed to represent all of the things that someone would typically buy, which would be things like the foods that they buy, their bills, the cost of transportation. Like, you would think, like the things that everyone needs to buy should go with this basket. But what they do is they exclude all of the things that actually matter and that people actually need to spend their money on, including things like energy. And then and they do this intentionally with the purpose of making the inflation look like it's not so bad. Um, and my personal opinion is that the best way to actually gauge inflation, the best metric of any metric whatsoever, would be median home cost to median personal income. And there's a couple of reasons why this is the case. So you'll often hear people talk all the time about how the average household income is such and such. It'd be some number like $65,000 a year. Well, first of all, this is like comparing apples to potatoes, because an average is not representative of a group. And a simple example to kind of prove this fact is that if you give 19 people $1 and you give one person $1,000, the average that you have given the individuals, which is the mean, is $50.45. Clearly, that does not represent what the average person is getting. But that's just the way that means work. You add them all up, and then you divide by the number of samples in the group. A more accurate representative would be the mean, which is where you sort all of the elements that are in the group, and then you take the one that's in the middle. And sure enough, the median of this particular group would be $1, which is obviously more representative because you gave 19 people $1 and only one person got 1,000. It's more accurate to say that you gave each person $1 than it is to say that you gave each person $50.45. So that's one misleading thing. The other misleading thing has to do with household income. And they'll reference this all the time. They say the average household income such and such, the average household income such and such. But what they completely disregards is the fact that the number of households that are dual income today compared to the 1960s, like the mid 1960s and 1970s, which is the era when the boomers were reaching their adulthood. According to Dinks Finance, which actually references the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, in the 1960s, about 25% of married couples in the U.S. were dual-income households, as opposed to 2023, where it's about 60%. So this is actually a figure of 2.4 times more people. And so one of the ways that you can actually look at this is that it takes 2.4 times more man hours to produce the current household income than it did in the 1960s. Another way of saying it would be like the people have to work 2.4 times more hours to get the same, to contribute to the same total amount of the household income. But the big takeaway from this, I think, is that like a better way of measuring this would be the personal income, because personal income would be tied directly to wages, which more directly correlates to hours. So now what you're considering, if you're considering wages, you're actually considering the hours that an individual works. And so like you're measuring things more so in terms of hours than in terms of money. So it's a more direct measurement, in my personal opinion. So like I said, the better metric would be to actually gauge the median home cost the ratio of that to the median personal income. And so for that, we're going to go ahead and go into the numbers here. So I asked ChatGPT here to give me what the average, or sorry, not the average, but the median personal income would be between 1951 and 2023. And so you can see here that it references Investopedia, which itself gets its information from the Social Security Administration, specifically the National Wage Index. And you can see here, 1951 is $2,799 for the median personal income, which sounds about right back then. I mean, you wouldn't think they weren't earning that much. Like they always tell you, look, when I started my first job, I was only earning $2-3 an hour. You keep scrolling down, you see over the years it's going up, and you're like, oh, well, this looks nice. This looks real nice. Look at this. Look how much the median personal income is. And then they say they didn't have information for 1950 and 2024, which is fine. We got enough information out of that. So next I asked it to give me the average home cost every year, which I misphrased that, but they gave me the median, which is what I wanted. So you have 1950, 7,354. Golly, wouldn't you want that? That would be real nice. But of course, the boomers were still children at this era. They started becoming adults in about 1964. So this would be more like the market value they were starting to come into for the median home price. So if you keep scrolling down, you see all the way down in 2024, it's like $426,800. Like, Jesus. Like, we went from 7,354 to $426,800. And if you're wanting to know where this come from, of course, it's referencing the U.S. Census reports. I think it's actually the U.S. Census Bureau. So again, this is a government source. And if you want more detailed information, I asked it to give me the numbers for 1950 to 2024. Now you can see, yeah, we got more data here. So you can see going up slowly over time, quarter by quarter, year by year. And so just for a frame of reference, because I haven't seen anyone plot these things, I plotted these numbers into Excel. So you can see the year here in this column. You can see the median salary or the median personal income in this column, and the median home cost in this column right here. And then in this column right here, I did the ratio of the median home cost to the median personal income. I was going to do some extra numbers here, but I kind of got lazy and decided not to go on that because I already found something else that was shocking enough. But here you can see a graph of the median salary plotted against the median home cost. Look at this number right here. The median salary is this blue line going from 1951 to 2023. The median home cost, exponential curve. And of course, in this one right here, I plotted just the ratio. And so you can see that we started off at a ratio, it was 0.648, way down here, which basically means that in 1950, you could buy a house with a little over half a year's amount of labor. Now, we are over 14, which means that you would take over 14 years of labor to buy a house. And this isn't accounting for things like the taxes that you'd be paying on the house or the interest on the debt that you would take out for a loan or anything like that. This is just if you took every penny of the money that you earned and put it into getting the house, this is what you would be paying. This is ridiculous. Like, so to recap here, we go from a home ratio, what were the boomers at here? See, 1963, 1964. A ratio of about 1 to 1. I will round up to 1 to be generous. A year's worth of labor to buy a house to 14.24 years of labor to buy a house. People, you are being robbed. You are being robbed. You wonder why the millennials are in their 30s and still living with their parents. You wonder why Gen Z does not want to work. This number, boomers, right here, this is why they don't want to work. This is why they are lazy, right here. This is why they are, quote, lazy. You did not have it hard. Like you were working if you worked a part-time job, you could have bought a house and supported a family in 1964 compared to today. This is absurd. And this all has to do with like the gaming of housing and the unfettered immigration and all of the other different junk which the boomers allowed to happen. Every single policy today that has destroyed this country was created in the 1960s and early 1970s by the boomers upon the age of reaching adults. And not only that, I want to go into something here for you. Sorry here, U.S. budget. I wanted to plot something. They want to talk about mooching here. So I broke down the U.S. budget here. We got Social Security cost. That's a lot. We're in the trillions, of course. Medicare and Medicaid. Income security, which is things like SNAP. This is also things like welfare. I think so. That might be classified under social services. But we also have veterans benefits here. We have the defense budget. We have transportation, and then we have other expenses, which of course is using the trillions. So this number is so big that it just doesn't want to display itself. And then general government expenses and the net interest on the debt, adding up to the total budget here. Oh, sorry. So to compute the numbers of how much is being spent on boomers, I started off with the programs that would only benefit them. So this would be Social Security, which is of course going to go bankrupt by the 1930s, by the 2030s. And the Medicare and Medicaid, that's not stuff that the average person gets. And I computed it. I also did income security as well. Let me check this right quick. No, it was just Medicaid and Social Security. I guess I was generous. So I'm not accounting for the boomers who might be living on welfare or might be getting food stamps or anything like that. Like, I just assume that like they contribute absolutely nothing to that, and the only thing they're getting is Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, which is a bit of a lie, because they do get other things as well. But I only factored this into what I called the boomer mooch category. This is how they're mooching off the government, and these are the other moochers, the people who are taking money from SNAP services and welfare or whatever. I factored this in here, and here we got the total mooch cost, which is right here. And so this. These three columns right here are actually plotted on this graph, and you'll see that the cost of mooching, boomers make up almost 3/4 of all of the mooching cost in the entire mooching category of the U.S. budget. Specifically, it's 39.8%, as opposed to the a percentage of the U.S. budget in total that is spent on mooching, which is 59%. And you can see that here, this whole blue circle right here, that is the cost of all of the mooching services on the government. You'll see that it is a pretty hefty slice. If you subtract that from the net interest on the U.S. debt, you'll see that only about 1/4 of the entire U.S. budget is spent on things like veterans benefits, defense, transportation, other costs, general government. And then, of course, I broke it down a bit further here. I redone the same graph, but I factored out the boomer mooch cost as opposed to the other mooch costs. And you can see that if you combined the boomers with the net interest on the debt, they total more than half of the entire U.S. budget. Which is to say that if you eliminated every other service in the entire U.S. government, that includes transportation, defense, veterans benefits, general government costs, any other costs you might have, all your departments and services, like your SNAP services, your welfare programs, your education and training programs. If you eliminated all of that and the only thing you kept was the money that you were spending on the boomers and paying the interest on the national debt, you would not even eliminate half of the U.S. debt. And so these motherfuckers want to tell you that you are the lazy ones. These are the motherfuckers who are in control of Congress. Like, literally everyone in Congress is a fucking dinosaur and has been for ages now. You are being robbed. And the thing too is that in 2036, you're not getting any of this money because this program is bankrupt. The number of people who are paying into the Social Security program is about 1.2 to 1.4 for every one person pulling out. It is an unsustainable system. It is a Ponzi scheme, and that is the reason why these boomers are out like these Tesla stations and shit protesting immigrants not being deported or not allowed in the country. This is why. This is why. They want slaves to pay for their lifestyle. And they're pissed because the younger generation is fed up with it, and they're just giving up. I mean, they're hopeless. They're fucking done. Like you're broke. If you're paying 14 times, if it takes you 14 years to buy a house, you're never starting a family. It's never happening. And you have to be making people. I mean, the replacement level for a nation, like you have to every family has to have like 2.1 or 2.3 kids in order, on average, in order to sustain the current population. That's not growth. That's just sustaining the existing population. We are below replacement levels. We're heading in the direction of North Korea and these other countries, and this right here is one of the major reasons why. It's because people can't afford homes, and people who can't afford homes don't start families. That's just common sense. And of course, we can get into the divorce statistics and stuff as well. I did the numbers on that. So here, I've got a column for the number of marriages that are done each year. Sorry. So here's the year, the number of marriages that are done that year, the number of divorces that are done that year, the ratio of the number of divorces to the number of marriages, and then that computes into a percentage, which I called the divorce rate. I'm not sure if this is how they calculate it in general, but this just seemed like a sensible way to go about it to me. We got the population of the U.S. here, so I could base it off of, do per capita calculations. So here we got the marriages per capita. So like for you see, it's usually a pretty low number when you look at it. This is divorces per capita, and then of course you have here the number of children per woman, which is also known as the fertility rate. So you can actually see the fertility rate starts off high in the 1950s, which is 3.1 down to 1.78. And here you can get a graph here so you can see over time. The blue line represents the number of marriages that are occurring each year, with the blue straight line here being the general trend, and then you see the number of divorces. And you see they seem to follow the same basic trajectory here. The slope of the line seems about the same, so you would think that'd be fine. But here's the thing, is that if you plot the divorce to marriage ratio, which is the divorce rate, you will see this pattern right here. So 1950s all the way up to the 1963, I think it was. This right here, right where you see this small little jump, this is where the boomers enter adulthood. They enter adulthood here, and we go all the way up to a 50% divorce rate between 1978-ish, all the way over to 2000. I think that's 2000. That's when the millennial generation starts to come into being. So the millennials become adults here. We drop down 10 points, or 10%. And then it's been steady at about 40% divorce rate ever since. So the general trend line, increasing divorce rates, with more than double today than what they were in the 1950s. But the worst was actually during the boomer generation. Like, they were just freaking divorce happy. Like, they're crazy with the number of divorces they were having. So here we have marriages per capita, and you can see that actually the general, if you adjust per capita, based off of population size, that even though over here it looks like the number of marriages are going up, this is only because the population is going up. That's the only reason these numbers have a general upwards trend line. If you go over here, you will see that the actual marriages per capita, the marriage rate is dropping precipitously. Like, it is crazy down. And then down here you see the divorces per capita, which is it looks like it's basically level. I mean, it is slightly increasing, but it's enough to where you could basically say, be generous and say it's level. But these two lines are approaching each other. Um, and it's just like a general trend that direction. So here's another interesting graph right here. This is the divorce rate, which is or divorce marriage ratio here with the yellow line, compared against the number of children per woman. So this is kind of interesting. The divorce rate has zero correlation whatsoever to the fertility rate. It actually correlates more so to the marriage rate, which is to say that people aren't having kids because they're not getting married. And why are they not getting married? It's because they can't buy homes. So this was eye-opening to me when I plotted all this information. Like, I've never seen anyone just like freaking present it all in one spot. I don't know if it's just maybe people don't think the same way I do, or if it's an intentional thing, or just maybe I don't even know. But this is crazy to me. This is absolutely crazy. People, wake the fuck up. You're being robbed. Your country is robbing you. Wake up.